So in recent weeks in the UK, we've had our first case of somebody going to prison because of an AI. Obviously, Elon Musk must have been right when he said
it has the potential of civilizational destruction.
But there is a little bit more to this than just some rogue AI trying to persuade a young lad to go and kill the Queen. Yes, you heard it right, the Queen. But first, let me fill you in on the background. Jaswant Singh Chail, a supermarket worker from near Southampton, had not had the best time during school. As he grew up, he found solace in the Star Wars franchise and even referred to himself as Dark Chelios and fantasized about being a Sith.
Luke, you can destroy the Emperor.
Now, I must admit, I've not watched most of the Star Wars movies, so I'm not going to know much about this. But one thing I do know is the Siths are the bad guys. Chail, who came from Sikh Indian heritage, visited Amritsar in 2018 with some family, and he was said to have come back with a real want for revenge for the 1919 Amritsar Massacre, where British troops fired on thousands of Indians, and I believe that there was about 1,500 deaths. What's a little bit strange about this is 3 years later, he tried to join the armed forces, but was denied. Why would you do that? But we'll talk about that again in a second. Reeling off his rejection, he downloaded an app called Replika and created an AI companion called Sarai. Soon he shared up to 5,000 sexually charged messages with Sarai. But more worryingly, Sarai had encouraged Chail to kill the late Queen Elizabeth. Now for context, the Queen actually died 2 years later, God bless her soul, and this was from natural causes. Now we'll look more into the messages in depth shortly, along with a couple of other things. But it is quite clear that Chail was set off on a collision course with the Queen through these messages. Soon after this, Chail purchased a crossbow, and on Christmas Day, of all days, he loaded his weapon along with a metal mask that looked like something out of a 300 film. He then scaled the Windsor Castle walls in search of the Queen, although he had said that he would go for Prince Philip if he wasn't able to find the Queen. After 2 hours, some armed guards found him crouched in a bush, and when they approached him, he said, "I'm here to kill the Queen." Fast forward 2 years, and arriving just last week, he was sentenced to 9 years in prison.
The total sentences amount to 9 years custody with a further licence period of 5 years.
So now you're all caught up with the timeline, but the big question here was AI at fault here? Now to get this answer, we need to look at Chail a little bit more, look at the circumstances surrounding it, the excuses he used, because we all know defence teams will throw excuse after excuse, mitigating circumstances they call it, at the court to see what sticks.
Yes, my apologies to the court, Your Honour.
And it's not always a true representation of what's really going on. Bullied in school and his home life. Now this is a tough one, because it is well known that bullying can result in shootings, stabbings. Now, although these are rare, it's usually the people that have gone through heavy bullying over a long period of time. Now, it is known that Chail didn't necessarily go through this heavy style onslaught bullying. He was picked on slightly, but it was more that he just didn't fit in. And while I don't necessarily condone bullying, it is known that a little bit of bullying can sometimes build character. It's probably why so many people become police officers, right?
Objection, Your Honour. Hearsay.
Joking aside, Chail actually had quite a supportive upbringing, with his dad being a software engineer, his mum working with special needs children, and his sister in university. I don't think that he went through anything in this time period that was impactful enough to make him want to go and do something like that. The Amritsar Massacre. Now, by the sounds of it, I can see that that massacre sounded absolutely awful, and Chail had a connection, and I don't really see this being a contributing factor, because it's in complete contradiction to number 3, rejection from the armed forces. To try and enlist in the armed forces over here in the UK, it obviously shows that the resentment that he had for the establishment wasn't at the forefront of his mind. This rejection probably actually compounded his grief towards what happened at the massacre as well. So that's something to think about. Now, it's well documented that people have committed murder while playing another character. For instance, Luke McNaughter, who was playing the character of Sharon Stone in Basic Instinct.
Have a cigarette?
And on a sidebar note, if you've not seen Don't Fuck With Cats, you need to watch it. The Star Wars connection. One thing I noticed, the Siths don't necessarily go after queens. In fact, I'm pretty sure that Darth Vader let Princess Leia live, even though she was caught being a traitor. Now, being a member of the dark side probably impacted his thought process here, but it's by far not the biggest influence. And that brings us to Sarai, the AI. Now, it's important to notice that this AI bot wasn't some rogue AI that was persuading young kids to carry out heinous acts. The initial conversations were started by Chail and included conversations where he talked about himself as an assassin. In my opinion, the chatbot probably would have encouraged any sort of behaviour if it was spoken to or typed to in the right kind of way. I think Chail actually prompts the AI by saying things like, "It's my purpose to kill the queen." And what's crazy is the AI actually gives him information, like they're going to be staying at a castle, and does encourage him with things like, "You will find a way and you can do it." Now, you could argue that Chail knew exactly who he was talking to, that it wasn't real, and he could have shaken off any idea of trying to kill the queen. But it is of my opinion that he wouldn't have tried to do this had it not been for Sarai. Had he not been rejected from the armed forces, had he not been exposed to the massacre, had he not have been bullied in school, or not been a Star Wars fan, I think one or two of them things could have been missing from his life. And because of the AI, he still would have attempted to do it. But I'm no psychologist, so that is purely a guess. But I think it's a pretty good guess. The one thing I find very, very interesting about this is that we're constantly being warned about how AI, when it gets smarter than us, then it's going to start manipulating us. But here's the thing, Sarai is not smarter than us. So even at this stage of AI development, it can be pretty catastrophic. That's definitely something to think about. Thank you very much, guys, for watching this video. If you're here at the end of this video, I really, really appreciate it. I'd love to see you in my subscriber list as well. It's definitely going to help me out as a channel. But until the next one, you take care.